The beginning. The wedding. That was Rachel Karen Green stood at the altar of the Grand Synagogue, her hands slightly trembling as she held her bouquet of white roses. For a brief moment, as she looked at Barry Farber's expectant face, she felt a stab of panic. Everything about this moment felt predetermined. The reception at the country club, the honeymoon in Aruba, the house in Scarsdale they'd already put a deposit on. Yes, she heard herself say, suppressing the lingering doubt. The word felt strange on her tongue, but the approving smiles of her parents in the front row reassured her that this was the right choice. Security, stability, and her father's approval. Those were the things that mattered, weren't they? Meanwhile, in a small village apartment, Monica Geller was getting ready for her high school friend's wedding reception later that day. Her roommate, Phoebe, strummed her guitar, working on a new song about auras and pre-wedding nerves. "I can't believe Rachel is actually going through with this," Monica said, as she adjusted her dress. "Back in high school, she swore she'd never settle." "People change," Phoebe replied wisely. "Or they convince themselves they have." The phone rang. It was Monica's brother, Ross, sounding tense. "Carol just told me she's a lesbian," he blurted, "and that she's leaving me for Susan." The middle. Paths diverge. 1 year later, the apartment across from Monica and Phoebe's had recently been rented to two guys. Joey Tribbiani, a charming, aspiring actor, and Chandler Bing, who worked in statistical analysis and data reconfiguration, though no one quite knew what that meant. The four formed an unlikely friendship, often meeting up at a local coffee shop called Central Perk. Ross, still recovering from the divorce, had also moved into the building, finding comfort in being close to his sister and their growing circle of friends. "I'm telling you, man, you need to start putting yourself out there again," Joey said one night while hanging out in Monica's apartment. "There are tons of women who'd be into a dino guy." "Paleontologist," Ross corrected automatically, "and I'm not ready. Every time I think about dating, I just freeze." Monica placed a reassuring hand on her brother's shoulder. "You'll find someone when you're ready." Meanwhile, across town, Rachel Farber, née Green, was hosting her first dinner party as Mrs. Barry Farber, DDS. Their Upper East Side apartment was spotless, filled with wedding gifts and furniture they'd picked out together at Bloomingdale's. "Mindy, I'm so glad you could make it," Rachel said, hugging her friend. "Barry's just finishing up with a patient. He'll be home soon." Rachel had settled into the role of a dentist's wife. She volunteered at charity events, lunched with other doctors' wives, and had recently started playing tennis at their country club. Still, alone in her pristine apartment, she sometimes found herself staring out the window, imagining a life less scripted. 3 years later, Central Perk had become the gang's second home. Monica was now the head chef at Iridium, a trendy restaurant that had recently gotten a good review in the Times. Phoebe's massage therapy business was booming, and she still performed at the cafe every Thursday night. Chandler had gotten promoted at work, but was still as sarcastic as ever, while Joey landed a recurring role on Days of Our Lives as Dr. Drake Ramirez. Ross had found stability at the museum and had cautiously begun dating again. "I met someone," Ross announced one night. "Her name's Julie. We were on the same paleontology dig in China." The group cheered Ross's news, genuinely happy for their friend who had spent so long healing after his divorce. In Long Island, Rachel sat at her vanity, applying makeup for yet another charity gala. Barry had become one of the most in-demand orthodontists in the state, and their social calendar was always full. "Rach, have you seen my cufflinks?" Barry called from the closet. "Check the second drawer," she replied mechanically. As she finished her makeup, Rachel looked at her reflection. At 30, she had everything she was raised to want: financial security, social status, a husband who provided. But something was missing, a hollow she couldn't quite name. The phone rang. It was Mindy. "Rachel, I don't know how to tell you this." Mindy's voice cracked. "I've been seeing Barry, behind your back, for months. 5 years. Later, I now pronounce you husband and wife," the minister declared as Monica and Chandler embraced, surrounded by cheers from their friends. Their romance had begun unexpectedly in London during Ross's second wedding to Emily, a relationship that imploded when Ross accidentally said Julie instead of Emily during the vows. Despite the disaster, Monica and Chandler had found each other, and their friendship blossomed into something deeper. Joey, now a soap opera star with a loyal following, served as best man, while Phoebe, 7 months pregnant, as a surrogate for her brother's triplets, was the maid of honor. Ross sat in the front row, forcing a smile. He was happy for his sister and best friend, but their joy highlighted his own string of failed relationships since Carol. Elsewhere in the city, Rachel was alone in her new Chelsea apartment, surrounded by moving boxes. The divorce from Barry had been finalized 3 months earlier. The settlement had been generous. Barry's guilt over the affair with Mindy ensured that, but money couldn't fill the emptiness Rachel felt. On impulse, she picked up the phone and dialed a number she still knew by heart. Monica Geller. Monica Bing. Monica? It's Rachel Green. From high school? I know it's been forever, but I just got divorced, and I really need a friend right now. 7 years later, the cafe was packed, but Monica managed to save the usual couch. Joey entertained the group with stories from his new movie set. He had finally broken into film after years on television. And then the director told me I was a natural-born action hero. He boasted, flexing. "We're so proud," Phoebe said, patting his arm. "But remember what I said about your aura turning orange when you get too cocky?" Chandler glanced at his watch. "Ross is late. Again." "He's probably with Elizabeth," Monica said, referring to Ross's much younger girlfriend, who also happened to be his student. "Swear to God, my brother's love life is like a soap opera." The door to Central Perk opened and everyone looked up, expecting Ross. Instead, a woman with highlighted hair and an expensive coat stepped in, glancing around uncertainly. Monica gasped. "Rachel!" The reunion was awkward at first. Years had passed, lives had gone separate ways, but something of the old friendship remained. Rachel had started working at Bloomingdale's after the divorce, discovering a passion for fashion she'd never been able to pursue with Barry. "I can't believe I'm seeing you all again," Rachel said, as she took the seat Joey eagerly offered. "Monica, you look amazing. Marriage clearly suits you." "Thank you," Monica smiled, flashing her ring. "Rachel, this is my husband Chandler, and our friends Joey and Phoebe." "Hi," Rachel smiled shyly. "Monica told me so much about you." The door opened again and Ross hurried in, apologizing for being late. Sorry. Elizabeth needed help with her thesis proposal and—" He stopped short when he saw Rachel. "You must be Rachel. Monica mentioned you'd reconnected. Something passed between them. A flicker of recognition, of possibilities from a life not lived." "Nice to meet you, Ross," Rachel said softly. The end. Full circle. 10 years later, the 6 friends gathered at Monica and Chandler's suburban home to celebrate the twins' 5th birthday. Jack and Erica ran around with their cousins, Ross's son from his 3rd marriage to Mona, and Phoebe's daughter with her husband Mike Joey, visiting from Los Angeles, where he now starred in his own action franchise, was entertaining the kids with stories from his stunt work, carefully edited for young ears. In the kitchen, Rachel and Monica were icing the cake, slipping into a familiar rhythm. "I still can't believe you're moving to Paris," Monica said. "Head buyer at Louis Vuitton. That's huge, Rach." Rachel smiled, a full, contented smile that reached her eyes. "If you'd told me 10 years ago that leaving Barry would lead to this, I never would have believed you. Sometimes we have to take the wrong path to find the right one," Monica reflected. In the living room, Ross was showing Rachel's partner, a kind French businessman named Jean-Claude, his latest paleontology journal publication. "And that's why Mesozoic finds are so significant," Ross explained eagerly. Jean-Claude nodded politely, clearly lost, but trying for Rachel's sake. Later, when the party wound down and the kids were put to bed, the 6 friends sat in Monica's backyard with glasses of wine in hand. "To eat, old friends and new beginnings," Chandler toasted, "and to Rachel's Paris adventure." "I wish I'd found you all sooner," Rachel said, looking at the people who'd become so important to her. "Think of all the coffee we could have shared." "Maybe it wasn't the right time before," Phoebe mused. "Maybe the universe needed us to go through everything else first. Or maybe some things are meant to happen, no matter when," Ross added, his eyes briefly meeting Rachel's. As the night grew chilly, they moved inside, gathering around Monica's kitchen table like they'd done countless times at Central Perk. Laughter echoed through the house as Joey shared his latest Hollywood disaster. Chandler cracked corporate jokes, and Phoebe debuted her newest song lyrics. Rachel looked around at them, the people who had become her family in her 30s, not her 20s. She thought about the scared bride she once was, the unhappy wife, the woman who finally found the courage to carve her own path. There was a bittersweetness in finding them so late, but also a deep gratitude that she had found them at all. Some journeys, she realized, take exactly as long as they need to. "You know what?" Rachel said suddenly. "I'm not taking, though. Job in Paris." The room went silent. "What?" Monica gasped. "Rachel, it's your dream job." Rachel looked at her friends, at Monica, who supported her when she needed it most, at Phoebe, whose quirky wisdom always hit home, at Joey and Chandler, who welcomed her without hesitation, and at Ross, whose steady friendship helped rebuild her confidence. "I've spent my whole life chasing what I thought I was supposed to want," Rachel explained. "The right husband, the right neighborhood, the right job. But being here with all of you, this is what I really want. New York is my home. You are my home." "What about your career?" Ross asked gently. Rachel smiled. "I got another offer last week. Director of merchandising at Bloomingdale's. I wasn't going to take it, but I think I will now." The room erupted in cheers and hugs. Later that night, as Rachel prepared to leave, Ross walked her to the car. "You know," he said hesitantly, "when Carol left me, I never thought I'd feel whole again. But finding this group, it changed everything." Rachel nodded. "I know exactly what you mean." "I'm glad you found us," Ross said softly, "even if it took a while." "Me too," Rachel replied. "Some things are worth the wait." As she drove back to her apartment in Manhattan, Rachel thought of the frightened bride who had once said yes, never knowing the life that would unfold when she found the courage to say no to a future that wasn't truly hers. It hadn't been the path she expected, but standing at that crossroads now, looking back at where she'd been and ahead to where she was going, she wouldn't change a thing. After all, sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never see coming. Tarkchantiru.